Welcome to today's Premier League transfer show, and it's a sad one for me because not only am I going to be discussing Mohammed Kudus possibly leaving West Ham United, it's potentially joining Spurs as well. However, we're going to leave that transfer rumour till the end of the show. We'll delay Grumpy Gio. First, we're going to start with Ollie Watkins and Eze. Eze being linked to Arsenal, £68 million because of his release clause. And this is interesting because I'm waiting. I think we all are. Arsenal fans more than anyone else, but I think the rest of us are also looking at Arsenal thinking, well, what are you going to do? It's your move now. Liverpool's done their business. Man City's done their business. Big transfers, the big sums of money, big players. You would expect those two clubs to improve next season. So you're looking at Arsenal thinking, well, what are you going to do? Because there's already a gap for you to make up. So you're already behind Liverpool. They've pulled further away from you in this transfer window. What are you going to do? So they're being linked to Rodrigo of Real Madrid, and apparently to get Eze, they're still going to sign a winger. Could be Madueke, we'll touch on him in a second, as well as a striker. And they definitely need that number 9, that out-and-out striker, that big money, big signing up front. But there's no signs of it yet. There's been a few rumours, but there's not been any movement. However, reports yesterday from reliable people suggest that Eze is their current top target. And I think this would be a fantastic signing for Arsenal. At 68 million, I think you're getting an incredible player. A bit injury prone. If he didn't have that injury prone aspect to him, this would be a bit of a no-brainer. I'd be like, wow, what a signing for Arsenal. Get him in. He will be a huge success. And I think when he's fit, he will still be that. It's just that I feel quite comfortable that he will be missing at some point during the season due to injury. However, I think this is exactly what Arsenal need. I think Arsenal need quite a few things. Defensively, they're fine. Defensively, they are the best team in the Premier League. So that aspect, they're all good. They've signed Kepa from Bournemouth for $5 million to be their backup goalkeeper. Fantastic business. So defensively, they're rock solid. It's just the middle of the pitch and then the attacking aspect of the team as well. And too many times last season when I watched Arsenal, they were just lacking creativity. They just didn't have that spark. It's all very well not having a striker. But there was games where actually I think you could have had any striker and they would have struggled in that Arsenal team to score because Arsenal were just lacking in the final third. Martinelli wasn't on it. Trossard wasn't on it. Saka was out. During these games, Saka was injured. And they just were not the same. They took Saka out and Havertz out. Their attack was just in trouble. Odegaard wasn't producing what he should have been producing last season. I think he had a poor season, especially towards the end. There was big games in the Champions League, PSG in particular. I thought Odegaard went missing, but there was a big reliance on him. It was a case of you need to create because we're struggling elsewhere. You need to be the guy that unlocks the defence for us. And he wasn't doing it. So I think Arsenal taking on the transfer window and going to bring in someone that can take the pressure off Odegaard, offer something completely different, can play various different positions as well in Eze. I think this would be a superb signing. I don't see him as the left winger. I see him more as someone to replace Odegaard, essentially. Do you drop Odegaard? Do you play him and Eze? Because I remember when Arsenal first went for Declan Rice, the rumours was Arteta had a bit of a vision, and his vision was to play Kai Havertz as one of the number 8s, and Declan Rice was going to be the number 6, so he was going to have Odegaard and Havertz with Declan Rice behind them. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not too sure, but it does make you wonder if in some games that could be an option for them. Now, I'm a bit anti-Declan Rice as a defensive midfielder. I think you lose the energy, you lose his driving runs, but you only lose that if you don't replace it with the person replacing Declan Rice, if that makes sense. So PSG, for example, you had Rice at the anchor of midfield with Odegaard and Marino. They just didn't provide what Rice did in that role. But if you put Eze in there instead of Marino, you have a completely different midfield. But Eze can play out wide as well. I think what you're buying with Eze is guaranteed quality, guaranteed goals, guaranteed assists. I don't see a problem with this one. I think this would be a really, really good signing for Arsenal. Madueke, I'm not too sure about. He's consistently inconsistent. Hopefully that makes sense. All fur coat and no knickers, so to speak. He just looks good, but is he good? He's one of those players, isn't he? Like Garnacho. Like, to be fair, Doku is starting to provide that final ball quality, right? But I think, by and large, since he's joined Man City, I've watched Doku play, and I've thought, he's good, but is he good? He takes his player on, but something's lacking. There's just something about him I'm unconvinced by. Madueke is that type of player where some games I watch him, he's fantastic. The next game, he looks terrible. It's not even like he looks poor. He looks bad. He's one of the worst players on the pitch. So there's definitely a player there. Can you get it out of him week in, week out? That's the challenge. So when I seen him being linked to Arsenal, I thought, I'm not too sure about that. Because also, I am convinced Madueke's best position is on the right in the attack, which is Saka's best position. You're not moving Saka, so Madueke essentially is going to play second fiddle. However, what it does do, possibly answering my own question here, is why would you go for Madueke? Well, because when Saka was out, Arsenal had nothing. I just think Madueke is better than that role. As much as I've just slagged him off, I think he's better than playing second fiddle to Saka week in, week out. Be an interesting one. I'm not sure I believe in Madueke one too much, but Chelsea are in a position where they're looking to offload a couple of players. They've got a good relationship with Arsenal as well. We've seen deals done between them over the years. I mean, I'm sure Chelsea bloody loved them after they signed Havertz off them, and took Sterling last season as well. One to watch? Not really. Eze, one to watch? Absolutely. I believe it. Reliable sources suggesting it. And I feel like it makes sense. And I think that would be a big signing, a good signing for Arsenal. Now, moving on to Ollie Watkins, who's been linked to Man United. Before we get into it, if you're new to Tartan Geo, please do subscribe. And also drop a like on the video as well by clicking the thumbs up. Just a quick bit of admin today. Ollie Watkins, Man U. Not sure. Not sure I believe it. Well, actually I do. The report is that in the last few days, Man United contacted Aston Villa to discuss the availability and the price of Ollie Watkins. I believe that. Personally, I wonder if Man United were hoping to take advantage of what was at the time Aston Villa's PSR situation. Now, obviously, as we've come to realise, Aston Villa sold their women's football team to a company which has the same owners. They're doing what Chelsea have been doing for ages. And by the way, I have no problems with Aston Villa doing that. I have no issue with any club doing that. They're playing by the rule. I don't like the rule. I think it's a silly rule. However, it's there. Villa are simply just doing what other clubs have been doing. I have no issue with what Aston Villa have done. But what it has meant is that Villa were able to get around their PSR issues without selling a player. Something they've had to do in the past. Douglas Luiz left 12 months ago because of PSR. You look at Newcastle's, I mean, some of you are Newcastle fans. I think I'd be livid if I was a Newcastle fan watching England at the Euros this summer, watching how good Elliot Anderson is, knowing that you had to sell him because of PSR. My head would be spinning. It would. My head would be gone. Because at that point, this rule was still sort of frowned upon. The Premier League put a halt to stuff like Newcastle's owner was sponsoring their kit, sold Elliot Anderson, and then the rule got lifted. Manchester City proved it was, well, illegal really, so it got lifted. But my word, Newcastle have fallen victims of PSR big time with that Elliot Anderson thing. But in regards to Watkins to Man U, I just wonder if Man U were perhaps trying to get Watkins on the cheap and take advantage of what was Villa's current PSR situation. Saying that though, Villa have always been open to selling him. He was strongly linked to Arsenal not long ago now. I think part of that was because they had Duran at the club at the time. It was a case of, well, we'll sell Watkins. You'll get 40 million for a striker he's not old, but he's certainly not young, 30 years old. He's getting to the point where he's going to need replacing in the next year or so. So I think Villa have always been open to selling him. 40 million for him is quite chunky. This is exactly why Man U are rubbish. These types of deals, short-term deals, paying big money for older players, where it doesn't work out, they're stuck with them. That's what they like. Casemiro, the prime example, where it worked, then it stopped working pretty quickly. Then you've got an older player on enormous wages that you paid a decent fee for. That's what Man U need to get away from. So this deal for Watkins to Man U, would it work? I think it would. I think it would be an excellent signing for them for a couple of years. Then I think they'll be in the exact same situation, which is, he's not cutting it anymore in the Premier League. Need to offload him, can't offload him. Now need to go and replace him. Maybe at that point, Xerxes or Rasmus will be good enough to be playing week in, week out in the Premier League. But that's a gamble. I think 40 million for Ollie Watkins is fair, by the way. I think Aston Villa are well within the right to ask that. Because I think you're getting a really good Premier League striker. But it's how long will he be a really good Premier League striker for? And unlike, say, Chelsea signing Liam Delap, they know he's only going to get better. He's only going to be worth more and more money. In 5 years' time, you could see Liam Delap being top goal scorer in the Premier League. Ollie Watkins in 5 years' time, you could see him being top goal scorer in the Championship. That's a big difference. Yeah, Watkins is 10 million more, albeit because of a release fee. But this is the type of deal Man U should not be doing. If it was Man U were at the top of the league, and Watkins was let's just say Man U finished third last season, they signed Watkins to win the Premier League, it's justified, it's done. It's done. A bit like Robin Van Persie, paid big money, but he was so good and he made such a big difference, it was justified. But the problem is for Man U, signing someone like Watkins on such a short-term vision might be the difference between them finishing 14th and 10th next season. It is not worth it. They're better off finding younger players who in 3 years' time may be good enough. Because that's where I see Man U at the minute. Right now, if I was to predict the Premier League table for next season, Man United would be in the bottom half of my predicted table. That's the reality. Right, on to another team that I think will be in the bottom half next season. My team, Mohammed Kudus. I've tried to stay away from West Ham talk on here, keep it more neutral, but it's a big transfer rumour, isn't it? And not everyone watching this is a West Ham fan. So Kudus has been linked strongly to Spurs at the minute. Now, there's been an unofficial transfer embargo between the two clubs for over 10 years now, since we've done any business. The owners dislike each other, but they have worked together in the past. And it looks like that could be coming to an end because West Ham want to sell Kudus. We need to get money into the club, and they look at him as the most valuable asset. We were wanting 70 million. Chelsea have had a loose £50 million offer / inquiry for him knocked back early on. That's where other clubs are valuing him. Around about 50 million, we're wanting 70. Usually you could meet in the middle over this sort of thing, but I hope we don't. We need to get as much as we can for him. Personally, I wouldn't sell him. I think he could be a top player. And Chelsea are still linked to him. And if he goes to Chelsea, I don't think he'll succeed there. I don't think that's the right club. I hope Kudus goes to Newcastle. I hope he goes there because I have a soft spot for Newcastle fans. I've not yet met a bad Newcastle fan. A lot of nice ones, though. And I think he would excel under Eddie Howe. I think he'd excel at Newcastle. And it would be frustrating to watch him. But ultimately, I'd be able to go, well, he's gone to club, Champions League football. It's a step up from West Ham. And I could be happy for him while being frustrated that we didn't see that version of him at West Ham because of Bowen. Bowen's in his way, essentially. Well, if he went to Spurs, I think he would excel at Spurs, and I think he would excel under Thomas Frank. But I'd be angry because I'd be thinking, well, I never got to see this at West Ham. I never got to see this guy. And it's because of my like/dislike for the two clubs that makes it difficult to stomach. I don't want to see him in a Tottenham shirt at all. I would be angry if he goes to Spurs because in the past people will say, well, why would Spurs do business with West Ham? They just don't. The answer to this one in particular is because Daniel Levy will think he's getting one up on David Sullivan. He'll be signing one of our best players for less than market value because we're skint and desperate. And that's exactly what will be happening here. I hope he doesn't go to Spurs. Although, I'll be honest, I think that's where he may end up at this point. And I'm dreading that day. And then the minute that happens, I'll be dreading watching him next season for Spurs because I think he'll score goals, he'll get assists, and I think Thomas Frank will make him a better player than what he is at West Ham. And that'll be very, very hard to stomach because it's not even like we're getting a lot of money to compensate. We'll be selling him on the cheap, in my opinion, to a club that we don't want him to go to a manager who's going to make him even better. If there's anything you don't want to happen when selling a player at your club, Mohammed Kudus from West Ham United to Tottenham has everything.